Welcome back to another episode of Moonshiners Racing presented by Depot Street Sports. I'm your host, Michael Rizzo, joined with Aiden Forney and Zachary Kendall. Guys, I'm glad to be back talking sports, guys, talking all things now. You guys had a great show last week talking with Stephen Malozzi. So, how was that, guys? I mean, and how have you guys been? It's been 2 weeks since I really talked to you guys.
Uh, it went well. The interview did well, in my opinion. I enjoyed it. He was a great guy to talk to. Honestly, really a great interview. Honestly, probably my favorite interview we've done so far. Me personally, I mean, I blew the transmission on my truck. I hit a deer with my stepdad's truck. I have a herniated lower disc. But now, hear me out. But Ryan Blaney and the Denver Broncos are going to do well, so we're riding high still. We're still riding high right now.
Yeah, I thought the interview did fairly well. I wouldn't say it was last minute. I did some preparation for it, and it's always great to hear guys like that because everyone knows in NASCAR, the top guys get all the attention, and these guys that are just trying to grind it out to get like solid finishes, like top 20s, you don't get heard very much. So I thought it was a good idea to obviously ask if he still wanted to be on the show, and he did, and we worked it out, and he did great. And as for me, I just been working. Finally, it's not overly impressive job, but it gets me some money, and yeah, I mean, I took Sundays off, not realizing that the schedule for NASCAR had 3 Saturday night races in like this very upcoming short time span with Richmond, Daytona, and I think a Chase race also was on a Saturday night too. So otherwise, I'll catch most races, and yeah, I'm just ready to discuss all things Richmond because I do know what everything happened, honestly.
Yeah,
It's
a
also
little bit
it's
of go for it. Aiden.
I was going to say it's also about the storm where I'm at, and that last lightning strike sounded a little bit too close. It kind of sounded like it was like right in my front yard a little bit.
Yeah,
I
I
heard that
know a
there,
thing too.
I heard that there was a tornado in Muncie, or yeah, in like northern Muncie, Indiana.
Muncie's getting hit with everything right now, but I mean, I know a thing or two about the storms. I mean, I've been out without power the last week. Finally got it back, not last night, but the night before. Spent the last week on a couch because it's been so hot in my house. But gladly, the power's back on. I still have no Wi-Fi. I'm streaming this right now on a hotspot on my dad's work phone. So somehow we're still kicking. But anyway, let's get into the NASCAR news. That's why you guys all tune in. First up, let's talk about Joey Logano getting yet another short track win. Guys, I told you guys about that Joey Logano going to show up here late in the season. We have all these short tracks stacked up mid-season going into the almost the playoffs. The chase, it's an even year. It's just a recipe for Joey Logano getting back to victory lane and being pretty good. And right now, he's currently ninth in points after 2 wins, going to yet another short track race where Penske has been good at before. Then we're going to Daytona the weekend after, another track he's really good at. So, guys, are we going to possibly see 3 wins in a row here for Joey Logano? But before we jump ahead there, talk about Richmond and Joey Logano getting the win.
Yeah, Joey Logano's just been on a heater recently. Kind of expected Penske as a whole to be really good these last few weeks. Ryan Blaney's been solid, and not gonna lie, I expected a little bit more out of Austin Cindric. But I mean, Joey Logano has benefited from it the most for sure. Wins at Richmond, and he might be the favorite at New Hampshire, honestly. I know his teammates definitely have something to say about it. Both Ryan Blaney dominated this race last year. Austin Cindric is one of his best tracks, arguably his best track. And Christopher Bell, remember, Christopher Bell's insanely good at New Hampshire too. So that's all. That also creates a possibility for that. You mentioned how Logano's good at Daytona and the restrictor plate races, or I mean the drafting tracks. Other than Atlanta, he hasn't won at Daytona or Talladega since the Gen 6 cars. So I don't know about that. Recent years have suggested that he may not be the drafting track king like he once was at one point of his career. Uh, but it is Daytona. Anyone can win, even Joey Logano. A boring Joey Logano win can happen. Yeah, like every single year, it's just a every single Joey Logano win is a boring Joey Logano win. I don't care. Anyways, yeah, Joey Logano really just needed something to go his way because he was struggling mightily going into the final few weeks. He was outside the top 16 at one point, about 18th or 19th. Now he's ninth in points, putting himself, trying to put himself back into the championship conversation. That's the conversation I'm not yet ready to have with the 22 team, but he's making a case for it, and more than likely will make the chase. He has not locked in yet, but at this rate, I think he's pretty well locked in.
I don't know if you guys heard that or not. It's like the Jaws theme is playing a little bit. Um, don't let the boys get high is what he said after the race. I mean, early in the year when he was at Darlington, when he was running well off the pace, 3 laps down, people were obviously talking about, what is wrong with the 22 car? Why is it so off? Especially, when you see Ryan Blaney and the 12 team obviously be consistent pretty much the entire season. And, Logano was, 18th in the points, something like a month and a half ago. And now he's here in ninth in the points. Honestly, it kind of shows you just how, upside down you can flip the standings if you get hot and you win a couple races, because that's exactly what he's done. The last month, win 2 races, North Wilkesboro and Richmond, obviously a third at Indianapolis, too. That entire team obviously is just firing in all cylinders. And I looked at the graphic just before I spoke, and yeah, honestly, even year Joe Logano versus odd year Joe Logano in the next gen car at least, honestly, is kind of about the same except for one key stat, and that is wins. He wins a lot more often in even years than he does in odd years. He has like 16 wins in even years with the next gen car as opposed to 5 in the odd years. So he just wins. And, honestly, in the chase, you got to ride momentum, and they are certainly doing that. And he obviously took advantage of the fact that Briscoe let him get out to that 3-second lead. He talked about it. He thought that was the entire difference. It really was because, at Richmond, with the way the tires are, if you don't have a quicker car than the guy that's in the lead by like 3/10, you ain't passing him probably. Especially in the next gen car, it's even magnified, even harder to pass the leader as soon as you get on a longer run. So you better have a good car that's a great car that's even like double the amount of speed that that car in front of you is making. And he couldn't do it. He couldn't pass him. And, you know, Logano obviously is a very crafty veteran. As much as people want to dog on him for being like, not being a quote unquote worthy champion because of the way the playoffs were run. I mean, he still is a champion. He still is very I would say clutch, obviously, because in those playoffs, you had to win, you had to do really well in the one race, and he certainly did. He knocked it out of the park both times. That 22 team did, brought the best car, and he took advantage of it. And the way the situation is playing out, obviously, you wanted to. Yeah, I said all along you probably want to be in that top 6. I think you guys would probably say the same thing, but honestly, I think what Logano's doing, I mean, if you're 16th entering the chase, I hate to tell you, you're not gonna have a fighting chance. I don't think, because I highly doubt that you being 16th is um, showing that you can be capable of putting on a Tony Stewart type run. Logano here in ninth, honestly, has a fighting chance to get up to that top 6 spot, at least around like 6th or 5th, especially with some of these guys also kind of slowing down. So he has a fighting chance for that, and in the chase, he has a win on every single track. Apparently, if someone said it. I think that I didn't backtrack. I didn't back that up or anything, but I think that's probably true. But the 22 team does tend to struggle a little bit more on 1.5 mile tracks. Penske as a whole, honestly, kind of does. They don't have the necessary speed as a. You look at Toyota and Jokic Racing in 2011 do sometimes. But you gotta take the good with the bad, honestly, and how you turn those bad days into you can turn those bad days into okay days. Those could be the difference, honestly, for him running for the championship. We'll see if he can get it done. He can make a run, but yeah, he's certainly hot right now. He's taking advantage of the fact that these tracks are playing right up his wheelhouse, and he's doing a good job.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job. I mean, I knew this was going to happen. I feel like the whole series knew it was going to happen. At some point, Penske was going to figure it out, and at some point, Joe Logano was going to turn back the clock and do what he's done on even years. Let's go out there and win races and contend for the championship. Now, you both kind of admit it, saying that he's ninth in points. You're not ready to admit that he could be a championship contender. I don't know about that. You brought up a good point about how they're not been good at mile and a half and larger tracks this year, and obviously this last couple of months of the schedule has really been a beneficial uh, factor towards Penske and how they're running. And I feel like once we get to the playoffs, I keep saying playoffs. Once we get to the chase, I think Penske's. I mean, obviously Ryan Blaney, he's quick pretty much almost everywhere, at least top 10 car everywhere. So we'll see what happens there. But Joey Logano, I feel like he hasn't really showed it everywhere yet. I mean, sure, Indy he did kind of lucked out on pitch strategy there and clean air, but anywhere else that since his last win, he hasn't done anything other than a short track. So we'll see how he goes here at um, New Hampshire coming up. Let's move over to the Truck Series. Caden Honeycutt gets back to victory lane after a couple wins there from Front Row Motorsports. He gets back to victory lane. A short track guy gets a win at a short track, and Caden Honeycutt. Zachary, what did you think of this race and Caden Honeycutt's win?
Yeah, it was obviously it was a good win. It was a great win for him. Honestly, he had like the best truck. Even Corey Heim, who was in this race, couldn't even catch him really. And you know, with what Lang Riggs has been doing, obviously over the last month, kind of separating himself in terms of obviously points total and position. And, people look at him obviously being the championship favorite. And Caden Honeycutt wasn't by all means struggling. I don't think he was obviously finished pretty well. I think seventh and a fifth, but that Tricon Garage number 11, obviously, especially, wants to be in victory lane. It needs to be in victory lane because you saw how Corey Heim was able to take it and win half the races. And when he was in that truck, obviously he's feeling a little bit of pressure to win, obviously. And, this was a classic Tricon Garage performance. Honestly, they just they wiped the entire field completely. And, he had to do a good job, obviously, managing his stuff because, again, when you get out to a lead like he was, you don't want to get too far out because that means that you probably burn your stuff up early on. And then later on, you're going to be hurting, especially when you get into lap traffic. You're going to have some tire left to be able to turn underneath guys and just, maneuver your way through lap traffic, honestly, is, part of the key, especially at short tracks, especially at Richmond. Things happen fast, and he was able to do a pretty good job, obviously managing it. And all in all, it's another win for him. And again, he talked about it. When you can feel the pressure, obviously, is ramping up because this is crunch time. Honestly, this is getting near the end of the regular season for them, and it's important for him to stack momentum. And they don't want to go out finishing in the regular season, finishing seventh and fifth. They want to go out there and finish top two and win. So he did that, and he did a very good job, obviously, doing that. And hopefully, for him, he can continue to do that because I do want to see him and Lane Riggs bow it out all the way through until the final race there at the end of the season.
Yeah, it'd be good to see those two battle out there late in the season. I know Caden Honeycutt has you brought up some great points, Zachary. That truck won half the races last year, and you brought up a good point in that and how they want to step it up. But I mean, I think Caden Honeycutt's going to get there, but I don't think he's going to get to the same level as Corey Heim. I don't think he's that kind of prospect, at least not yet. But he could definitely develop into that kind of driver. But right now, Elaine Riggs is just on another planet of speed with Front Row Motorsports. I think right now they are obviously the team to beat, and we'll see it here come down later in the stretch of the truck season. Moving on, though, let's get into the news around the. Wow, sorry about that. There's some fireworks outside. It's totally scared the crap out of me there. Um, but I did not expect that on a random Thursday there in the middle of the week. But anyway, let's get to the point standings here. In first is Denny Hamlin. In second, Ryan Blaney. Third, Ty Gibbs. Fourth, Tyler Reddick. Fifth, Chase Briscoe. Sixth, Chase Elliott. Seventh, Christopher Bell. Uh, those are all the drivers locked in. In eighth, we have Kyle Larson. Ninth, Joey Logano. 10th, Chris Buescher. 11th, Carson Hocevar. 12th, William Byron. 13th, Daniel Suarez. 14th, Bubba Wallace. 15th, Austin Cindric. And now on the cut line in 16th is SVG. In 17th, the first driver out, Ryan Preece. In 18th, Ross Chastain. 19th, Brad Keselowski. 20th, Eric Jones. And that is your top 20. Zachary, as we're waiting for Aiden, his Wi-Fi is out. Give me 3 drivers you think you would like to talk about here in the playoff, the chase standings.
Yeah, I guess I'll talk about the one guy that suffered the most, honestly, in terms of dropping positions, at least from what I'm seeing, especially when he's in the top 16. He's just about ready to fall outside the top 10, and that's Carson Hocevar here in 10th. Now, Spire Motorsports, for the most part, obviously, this year has done a phenomenal job, obviously, at managing their races well. And what I mean by that is, in the past, you saw them, have speed, but then something would go wrong. Technical issues, that sort of thing, mechanical failures. We haven't really seen that, especially in that stretch there in 2025 where Hocevar was leading and contending on Charlotte and Michigan. Yet things go wrong. That wasn't really in his control. They haven't really suffered anything like that this year, but unfortunately, in Richmond they did. He had a engine failure, engine explode on him, and he wasn't getting a whole lot of stage points, obviously, and he wasn't really running up front. And similar to, I don't want to really talk about him either because I talked about him last week, but I got to bring him up as well because he's still in the chase here. Is Daniel Suarez and him have both really struggled the last month, honestly, here, and it kind of just shows, like the ceiling I feel like Spire is at right now, which is, he was definitely outperforming, I feel like, what they are capable of, at least at this current moment, where he was like 5th in points at one point. By the way, first DNF of his season, which, believe it or not, is kind of crazy considering that, how people think he's all reckless and all not. He does a good job, honestly, at finishing races, despite, his racing craft being a little on the aggressive side. And nobody can take him out. But anyways, Hocevar in 11th, excuse me, in 11th, he needs a boost of momentum, honestly, before he hit things rolling in the chase. Now, will he get that? I'm not sure because actually he's a great super speedway racer because he's so aggressive. That plays in his favor, and we got a new package that nobody knows anything about. You can for sure bet one thing that Hocevar is not going to lift, honestly, when we get to there. So honestly, he could be a factor there, but I'm not really looking at New Hampshire this weekend to really show, his speed. Honestly, it doesn't really fit. I don't feel like Spire's, MO right now is not the short track program. It's the big track. So I guess you have to muster through one more week and then you can maybe flex his muscles a little bit more. And then next guy on the list I got to discuss is Tyler Reddick, honestly, here in 4th. Again, I talked about it with Logano, how, he's kind of flipped the standings from 18th to 9th, obviously, because he's got 2 wins. Reddick, obviously, early in the year had 5 wins through the first 10 races, and everyone thought he was untouchable. And then the summer hit, and he's finished, obviously, pretty bad in a lot of races. And, he went from first with a dominant, well over 100-point lead to now back here in 4th. And, he's trying to find that loss. I don't think he's actually lost a whole lot of speed. It's just he's lost a whole lot of execution, and luck has gone by the wayside a bit in that 45 camp. It's similar to obviously to Bubba Wallace, honestly, but just specifically talking about Tyler Reddick, obviously, if he wants to be a championship contender and he wants to contend for this championship, he needs to have, find better execution. He needs that execution that he had early in the year where even if his cars were damaged, he still ended up winning the race. Look at Atlanta, obviously, the second race of the year. And then finally, Last guy I got on my list, I'm gonna talk about just real quick. Is Kyle Larson. Larson obviously has been pretty quiet. Um, Not really shown, winning speed because Hendrick has kind of struggled with the balance of that new Chevy body. But he finally had a good run, even though you could argue half of that race he was spent obviously back in like 17th. Um, but he mustered through it. They had some good strategy. Finally got himself a good finish. And on top of that, he was able to make the Knoxville Nationals and end up winning it. So it was a good night for him in total. And, it was just something that he needed, obviously, because he talked about it. I read an article how he said like they were trying to find, some morale boost before the chase because he knows it. They're not really running at a championship caliber team right now, speed wise, execution wise, all the above. So he desperately needed that. That team desperately needed it. He finally got it, and yeah, all in all, he's still hanging around in 8th place. And who knows? Maybe if they find something before the chase begins, maybe they can make a run there at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Y'all froze for a second. I was like, oh, I'm not back. But okay.
He froze, I think.
Yeah, Aiden, you froze. I don't know if you hear us, but you're definitely froze here. So we'll move on into mine, and then hopefully Aiden rejoins. He keeps losing Wi-Fi at the worst time. The first time he paused and lost Wi-Fi, it looked like mid sneeze. This time mid sentence. It's pretty funny. Anyway, let's move on for my three drivers here. We're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about. Man, you talked about Carson Hocevar. I'm going to talk about William Byron sitting there in 12th, lost a spot in the standings as well. Obviously, with Joey Logano getting the win here, but I mean, Joey Logano getting the win here, but just it's just crazy to see how going into the year, William Byron was a driver that a lot of people had pretty high. I know I did. I had him finishing second or third in the standings, and currently sitting at 12th. No resemblance to what we've seen the last couple of years out of William Byron. I feel like at some point Hendrick and William Byron are going to turn it on, but I just haven't seen it from him. The next guy I'm going to talk about is Austin Cindric, and he got a good race, and he needed that mightily this past weekend, and he had a good race. He's now just over the cut line. He should be good, barring any massive accidents here and any massive hiccups here. I think the only thing that you got to look at with Austin Cindric is he's going to run pretty good probably here this week at New Hampshire with Penske, and he's going to run pretty good at Daytona as long as he doesn't get caught up in a wreck. Those Penske drivers, they either win the thing, run very well, win it, or they run very well and they get wrecked out halfway through or the last third of the last stage. So what he needs to do is just be consistent there, and I think he's fine. The only driver I'm really worried about right now, dare I say it right now, on the outside looking in, is who I'm going to talk about is Ross Chastain. I know we have Ryan Preece there between the two in 17th, but I think Ross Chastain, I'm a little bit more scared of him rather than Ryan Preece currently. And I know Ryan Preece is very good at New Hampshire, open wheel, wheeling modified guy. I mean, that track is their Daytona. He's going to be good this weekend if he gets the right car. But I think Ross Chastain, I mean, he's been there, he's done that. He should be that guy that's fighting his own teammate to get in the playoffs. And of course, lastly, I'm going to talk about my driver, that being Bubba Wallace, because he's my driver and I can talk about him. 70 over the cut line, winner of this race, 68 over the cut line. He had opportunity to get a lot higher over the cut line these last 2 weeks. Just so many missed points. I mean, that's just the saying of the season for Bubba Wallace. Just so many missed points left on the table for him. Now he's sitting 14th. He should be up there in the top, right there around 10th, but he's sitting here in 14th. So many missed opportunities for him, and if it weren't for all those missed opportunities, he'd be in a lot better situation, but he's currently fine right now. I am a little bit worried about New Hampshire with 23-11. They have not run here good here in the past. Last year, the whole team had issues. Not looking forward to this weekend. Now Bubba only 70 over the cut line. Barring any massive issues, he should be fine going into Daytona. And then that's a whole nother animal talking about Daytona. So we'll see about Bubba and his chances. But
All
Aiden,
right.
you are back now, so
Yeah,
hopefully you don't
yeah.
freeze.
I'm back. I got the back end of Ross Chastain, and you mentioned Bubba. Who was the other guy you mentioned?
I mentioned William Byron. I technically mentioned 4. I broke my own rules, so. Oh, is he frozen again?
Nah, I was just messing with you.
Oh, oh
uh,
yeah. I broke my own rules. I mentioned Austin Cindric, William Byron, Bubba, and Ross.
okay, well, the first guy I was going to mention was SVG. Only 50 points to the good right now. Is that good enough for him? Wasn't great at New Hampshire last year. And Ryan Preece is solid at New Hampshire. So that could be an issue. And say Ryan Preece has a decent day and gets 20 points on SVG, or even gets 15. Just that's in range. That's in range of Ryan Preece possibly uh, getting enough points in passing SVG. It is a real possibility. It is a real shot. Uh, Next guy I'm going to mention is Eric Jones. Sadly, I think the dream has died for Legacy Motor Club to make the chase. I really thought there for a second Eric Jones was going to get his way in. It's going to be a great story. I think we all enjoy some Eric Jones around here, so we all would have been happy to see Eric Jones in the chase. Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. He is just kind of out of it now at this point. Sucks to suck. And for my last guy, I'm mentioning the guy that's 28th in points, John Hunter Nemechek, for causing yet another fucking accident. But no one gives a shit that this dude has no talent and can't drive a car. But yeah, they're like, no one cares, even though he just keeps causing mayhem every single fucking week at this point.
Yeah, we do not like John Hunter Nemechek on this podcast. So if you're a John Hunter Nemechek fan, sorry. Next up, let's talk about Chicagoland, some of our favorite track here. We talked about a lot about it in the last couple of, since the start of this podcast. It is going to be back next year. NASCAR and the city of Chicago could not reach an agreement on the street course to come back. The city wanted more money. NASCAR didn't. It was a whole ordeal. We're going back to Chicagoland, and I am glad. Hopefully, this time around, there won't be a bunch of rain the week leading up. There won't be all the parking issues, the traffic issues. Hopefully, now they learned a lot going into 2027. And now it's going to be in June, not on July 4th weekend. Looking forward to it. I will definitely be back. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully, I'll be back earlier than this time, instead of sitting in traffic, and maybe I could meet some drivers. But I did get I did get this nice signed Matt Collig, not Matt Collig, Chris Rice hat from Collig Racing here. He gave it to me off his head. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I got that. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going back there. I don't know what thoughts on this one.
I'm excited. I'm going to go first because there's a real possibility that I just drop again. I like having Chicagoland back. I think it deserves a second time go around. And really, I thought the race was still decent. Like I said, definitely could have been better, but I still thought it was pretty good. Leads to a lot of action. Not gonna lie, especially on restarts. A lot of mayhem on restarts. But I think it's a good track to go to, and I understand that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but still having a race in the Chicago area still helps out NASCAR a lot. It's a good thing for NASCAR. So I'm happy to see it get a second date. this time around. I hope that they make changes compared to this year, though, to the car, and hopefully we get a better racing product. Everyone's frozen. Never mind. Never mind. You guys are good. Anyways, hopefully you get a better racing product this time around, and hopefully put on a good show this time.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, obviously, you've seen obviously some incredible battles happen at Chicagoland. Everyone knows the slide job 2018 epic finish. 2019 wasn't terrible either. Um, but with the next gen car, first time going to Chicagoland, I thought it was obviously pretty good. I enjoyed it. I mean, we were all there, and I enjoyed the transition from where it was when the race started to when the race ended. Obviously, from like late afternoon, obviously into the evening. I thought it was pretty cool. Um, the parking was an issue. I think that's the biggest thing they got to really clean up and fix. And I think what this shows is, I think the fans really helped dictate this decision a little bit because, it was a question mark whether, 3 weeks ahead of time before that race even was about to start, they had trouble finding people to get their tickets because it wasn't a sellout. It ended up being a sellout, and the ratings was pretty decent as well. And you know, when fans, show up and, especially show out and, show a racing series that they want to have racing happen there, especially when it can produce great things. I think, the motorsport should not look the other way. It should be directly, looking at the fans and saying, we understand that you want this track on the schedule. It deserves to be on the schedule. We'll try and make it work because for some reason, NASCAR has this infatuation with the fact that they need to have a street race every single year. Um, Now they can have it on San Diego again, is what I think the rumor is that they're going to have it on San Diego again next year, which I think is fine because I think that race specifically was better than Chicago was. It just was, in my opinion, in terms of racing product and whatnot. And especially they're going to do some changes, I heard, to it as well. So that'd be interesting to see. Um, Chicagoland is just, it's modern, it's what NASCAR people think of NASCAR is. Unfortunately, I know there's some road course enthusiasts out there, but NASCAR's bread and butter has always been the 1.5 mile tracks, especially in the next gen car. It needs to have multi-groove racing. Chicagoland can provide that with hopes that you can find maybe a better package that you can bring there to hopefully get some maybe wider out the groove a little bit more. I feel like um and all in all, I think it's a great decision. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to hear that it was back because I think my biased opinion obviously is that I didn't want it to go away after 1 year because I hate when tracks when people put together money and effort to bring a track back. Specifically looking at Rockingham, and how it's here for like a couple years and then it just goes away and then like that all that effort is like all for naught basically is what I did not want that to have happen. And thankfully it's going to be back on the schedule, so I'm definitely excited that it is.
Yeah, it's a good track. I can't wait to go back again. Looking forward to it. Um, Also, just a side note about that race, Bubba Wallace had a really cool Space Jam car. If anyone wants to give me $250, they just released the signed version of it. So I'll gladly take that deposit. Thank you very much. But anyway, moving on. New announcement: worst kept secret in NASCAR the last couple of weeks. Connor Zilich will in fact be in the 48 in 2028. Yes, a whole year and a half away. We're making an announcement. They had a whole announcement at Hendrick Motorsports yesterday. Him signing the contract. He is going to be in the 48 car with Ally as his sponsor. No word yet on Red Bull moving over because they do have Form Energy with Chase Elliott. I mean, I feel like if they're smart, they bring over Red Bull as well. But I see how that might not work out. But at the same time, 23XI has 4 different drink sponsors. So that's, I don't know, a lot of sponsorship woes that are going on. But guys, thoughts on Connor Zilich moving over to the 48 car with Hendrick Motorsports?
Yeah, like you said, it's the worst kept secret in NASCAR. Christopher Bell would have kept this secret better than he did with the Chase Briscoe secret at this point. But I mean, we all kind of saw it coming. We mentioned it on the podcast the last time around. Last time we all three were on here, actually. Uh, and I voiced my concerns with Connor Zillage not living up to the hype quite yet, and possibly him not being a good fit for Hendrick yet, not having the experience. I still have those concerns. It hasn't changed, but knowing what he's driving and what he's dealing with, it's a lot. He just came off a really good run at Richmond, which we've harped on how bad Trackhouse has been the entire season. But if anything, they have come on strong late in the year recently. Uh, and it has shown with Zillage. Like I said, he had a really good run here, run just now at Richmond. So building on it slowly but surely. Glad to see Ally stick around in NASCAR. Ally, in my opinion, is a great sponsor for NASCAR. They are very much invested in Hendrick Motorsports and NASCAR as a whole. So having them stay in NASCAR is big. It's huge. Red Bull, I would like to see Red Bull in a Hendrick car because I think that can be pretty cool with some cool schemes, maybe. But I can also see them sticking with Trackhouse. Remember, they don't just sponsor Connor Zillage, they also sponsor SVG as well. So that could be a thing. And like you said, with Chase Elliott being sponsored by another energy drink, that could also be an issue. Uh, but that's all behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to see and really get a say in. So time will just tell us with that one. Uh, I'm a little concerned on what this could mean for Trackhouse. You have a guy on your roster that is leaving, so like that can create some malice there. That could well, you're leaving, so why should we even try? Like that kind of stuff. Of which has happened before. There has been drivers that announced that they're not coming back or they're not leaving for a different team, and then like behind the scenes the teams just don't care and just okay, well, you're leaving anyway, so we're just going to throw whatever out there. So that kind of worries me. That could hurt Connor's development per se. uh, and he needs all the development that he can get, especially for how this season's gone. It's just been terrible. So I can see that being an issue. I think that could be a bigger issue than some people realize.
Yeah, there's a lot of obviously thoughts kind of going around in my head and where I want to start out with. I guess I'll just start with this. Great opportunity, obviously, for Zillich. Not shocking to hear, obviously, because when he was with coming up through the NASCAR pipeline, obviously he came up through it very quickly. Obviously, and from ARCA, only ran 9 races in ARCA. He won 5 of those, and then he went up to the Xfinity Series with Junior Motorsports and won 10 races, obviously. And whenever I got to get this point across is like, people and his biggest haters can say whatever they want about how he was like in the best equipment. Um, you had to bring him up to Cup, honestly, because when a driver has a season like he did, you always see it happen. They always get brought up to Cup. Ty Gibbs, when he won the championship, won like 8 races in one single year, got brought up. Chase Briscoe before his inaugural season in Stewart Haas in 2021, 2021. In 2020, won 9 races, got brought up. So when someone has, a season like he did, the obviously next step is just getting up to the Cup Series. Now, obviously, the next gen car is not anything like the O'Reilly car, and Zillich has made that known about how he has to. There's a different feel for it, completely different feel for it, and he's kind of struggled with trying to find that balance, and especially it doesn't help the fact that Trackhouse has obviously lost the speed that it had previously, especially early on in the next gen car. So his development and what it's going to happen over the next year and a half, obviously, is going to be about, hopefully, they can don't give up on him completely. But if they do, obviously, you just got to, I think push the limits. Just don't over push them a little bit and just get all the laps you can. And you know, you I guess gotta say it. I mean, obviously, Trackhouse, tremendous loss. I know they're trying to play this off as, this isn't really like a loss. It's like another opportunity that can happen for another young driver. But when you sign Connor Zills to be a Trackhouse driver, obviously in a development deal, similar to what happened with Zane Smith, you you lost Zane Smith, and then you lose Zilich, obviously, to your other Chevy competitor, because they are still obviously a competitor to Hendrick Motorsports. It just hurts, and they're not finding the speed like they were previously, and in a year and a half, or in a year and a half, SVG is going to be a free agent, and Ross Chastain is going to be a free agent too. So what does their driver lineup look like in 2028? I'm not totally sure, honestly. Because because Ross and SVG and Shane, see this and see Zillis weighing his options, obviously, and choosing a different path. They are definitely going to be looking at their options, whatever those are, because if you can find better than Trackhouse, you definitely will jump at it. You know, and Hendrick Motorsports, it's not shocking to hear again, because when he was in the junior motorsports pipeline, typically they like to have that transition from that to their cup team, because you've seen it. Obviously, Chase Elliott came through there, Byron came through there. So I mean, and then obviously they also people had worried about Corey Day, what it means for him. It obviously sounds like he's obviously in their long term plans. Now, what those entail, I'm not totally sure, obviously, but I could see him potentially getting brought up to Spire Motorsports at some point to get some cup starts. He's going to run for the O'Reilly Series title next year as well. So he'll have a great opportunity there to continue to learn on, pavement racing, because he still is obviously fairly new to the style of racing, stock car racing. Um, so yeah, great opportunity for Zilich. Tremendous loss by Trackhouse. And I am curious about Red Bull as well, obviously, because they're not a Bass Pro Shops. They don't sponsor like any driver at all. They are definitely selective about who they want to have represent them. Um, Typically, in NASCAR in the past, they've wanted their sponsorship to be about one team, one singular team. You have it with Casey Kane and Brian Vickers. Um, in the early 2010s, or late 2000s, early 2010s, and then here in Trackhouse with SVG and Zilich. So I don't know if we'll see if they can get that to work, but if they can, it'd be very curious to see what they do with the paint scheme, because I feel like Ally and Red Bull could come up with something very creative. And yeah, not shocking to hear this, and it's a great opportunity for Zilich, and hopefully, when he gets to Hendrick, he'll be ready, because obviously there's a lot of people out there that don't think he's deserving of it, considering that he hasn't had a whole lot of good results in the Cup Series yet. But he is still young, and that's why he has that leeway, and Hendrick's definitely going to give that to him.
Yeah, I think this is a good fit for Connor Zilich. I think his season's not doing so hot because, first off, he's a rookie and he's in a bad situation with Trackhouse. It's not. I mean, it's at this point, it's common knowledge. Trackhouse has kind of taken couple steps down since 2022 when they were at their peak. Now I know SVG's there and he's been great for them, but SVG's is a very good driver on his own accord there, and just all the road courses he's good at. I mean, the car when Trackhouse came into the series in 2021, right at the end of Gen 6, and then we hit 2022 with the beginning of the next gen car, they hit it. And ever since then, they've kind of just been stuck in their ways and haven't been able to really adapt. And they keep hitting these drivers. Ross Chastain, he had a really good 2022, 2023. Last year, he was solid, got a Coke 600 win. This year, he's been pretty much non existent. Now, he's sitting in 18th in points, but not something we've seen from him. SVG has 3 wins, 2 wins, my bad. And not at the same level he was at last year. And now you have Connor Zilich, this prospect that we all said last year could have been the best prospect in the NASCAR scene. Obviously, he hasn't lived up to that hype, but I think next year he'll continue to learn. There at this point, there's not pressure at Trackhouse. The pressure is at HMS now, but the pressure and figuring it all out now at Trackhouse and all that is off his shoulders. And now you have the pressure of figuring it out at HMS. But at least he gets another year to grow and figure out this car before they hopefully change it pretty soon. But next up, and we're going to talk about another driver in a new seat. Well, not really new. That is Noah Gragson. He is going to be staying with the Ford team over at Front Row Motorsports. It's been rumored that he might lose that ride and he might go elsewhere. Well, that rumor is false. He just signed a 1-year contract to stay with Front Row Motorsports. Guys, thoughts on this one?
I mean, personally, I'm a little bit shocked by this. From an outside standpoint, just looking at his stats, just due to the fact that, what has Noah Gragson done exactly in the front row car? He's getting outran by Todd Gilliland and Zane Smith every single week. He really hasn't been good, and I really don't remember a single thing he's done in the 4 car. But I know, like, before he was signed, his owner was like, we want to keep him here. We're just figuring out sponsorships right now. So the issue wasn't his performance for them. The issue was sponsorship for him. Kind of makes sense. Bass Pro Shop's not there anymore. Rush Truck Centers is stuck with Noah. That's because Tony Stewart owns the company. And really after that, he's just had a hodgepodge of just random sponsors. Like, explaining to me what Zeep is. What is Zeep? No one knows what Zeep is. I don't know what Zeep is. Michael, do you know what Zeep is?
Zep, the sponsor is
Zep. Zep, yeah.
I want to say I don't know. I really don't know, but I know it's pronounced Zep.
Zep. Yeah, it's Zep. Yeah,
I think
my
Chase
mistake.
Briscoe has
do
it
you
on
know
the car
what
this
Zep
weekend.
is? What?
Yeah,
Chase Briscoe has it on the car this weekend.
Ah, gotcha. Do you still know what it is?
Yeah, I got it because thankfully to my good friend Google,
I have the diecast. And I don't know what it is.
It's apparently a cleaning supplier is what it is.
Okay, that's lame. Anyways, yeah, sponsorship being an issue for the Ford, that does make sense to me. What doesn't make sense is why are we keeping Noah Gragson around after what he's done, or what hasn't he done? Kind of just drives around in circles, doesn't really do anything. He doesn't get in trouble. Like, he's not like wrecking like actual cars or wrecking leaders. If he wrecks, it's usually a self spin, and it's not at the end of races, so he's not doing that either. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I get the personality aspect, and he is a good spokesperson for NASCAR, but he hasn't done anything yet, and I'm kind of surprised they are keeping him around for at least one more season.
Yeah, I mean, I was also surprised by this, honestly. No offense to Noah Gragson, but you could argue his most memorable moments in Cup have been him getting, you know, in beefs with other guys. Ross Chastain at Kansas, he got punched in the face, and earlier this year at San Diego when Kevin Magnussen came over and they're having a pissing match for 30th place. So, I mean, Front Row obviously is not a top contending team. And because of that, expectations aren't very high for that team in general. Zane Smith obviously is doing fairly solid for what that car is. He's already like high top 20s in points. Todd Gilliland doing the same thing where he's mid 20s, and Gregson's back there in the 30s. And there's been question marks throughout his entire career about is his drive to win and to be good at the par of what a Cup Series driver is supposed to be. Now, obviously, he has to have talent because he made it all the way up to NASCAR, and now he did win races in KBM equipment. He won races in Junior Motorsports equipment, so he can win. The problem is that when he's gotten into Cup and he's been at these other teams like Stewart Haas and now Front Row, obviously, Sponsorship has run into issues with him because he hasn't won, and he tends to maybe rile some feathers up. He has that in him, and he's not the most marketable guy, which is kind of crazy considering the fact that I feel like he's one of the first drivers I want to hang out with. Honestly, just hear his stories. He definitely probably has some, but you know I was surprised to hear it, but I guess it's good for Noah to stay in the Cup Series. Obviously, it's always, if you want to be in the Cup, you got to take any opportunity that comes your way, and he wasn't going to pass up on this. And I think gives front row a chance to let Lane Riggs again get some more truck time, similar to Corey Heim, and where he's in that series, obviously, and winning and doing a very good job, and maybe he comes up here and he's ready to go. Obviously, with another year under his belt, which is what I feel like is what this is all about, is that they want to give Lane Riggs another year and then bring him up, obviously. Um, and then where does Noah go after that? I'm not totally sure. Um, it's kind of weird, and I'm not saying that they're the same caliber driver, but honestly, you could argue Josh Berry and Noah Gragson are like the same type of driver. It's just that Noah Gragson's younger than him, hence why he can stick around. And Josh Berry is obviously struggling to find a job because he's mid-30s and also has sponsorship issues. Um, but you know, I guess it's good for Noah to stay in the Cup front row. I'm a little surprised, obviously, by it. All in all, Zane Smith. I want to say is their future, because there are question marks whether he'd want to jump ship to somewhere else, because if you want to obviously contend better, there are better out there than front row. There just is. So we'll see. I guess where all this goes next year, because technically this is just a 1-year deal, honestly. But he's in the Cup Series, again for next year, and we'll see, if he can put together some better results, because anything is better than what he's doing this year.
You brought up a guy that we're going to talk about here next. That is Josh Berry. The rumor on the streets are right now that Josh Berry is now a candidate for the 33 car that's currently being fielded by Austin Hill. Austin Hill and RCR has come to an impasse in the contract negotiations. And the rumor is that if Josh Berry had $2 million or $3 million worth of sponsorship, the ride is his. I don't know if I don't think he has that, since we haven't seen it, but currently the favorite is still Austin Hill. But right now, Josh Berry is in talks with RCR, possibly getting that ride too. So we'll see about that one. Guys, anything to add on this?
Be an interesting dynamic for sure. Sounds like RCR is realizing what everyone's known for a while, that Austin Hill sucks ass. So that's going great. You mentioned if Josh Berry has sponsorships. I do want to point out that Menards did sponsor Josh Berry 2 weeks ago at Iowa. Maybe that they're loyal to the Wood brothers because Paul Menard did race there. Maybe if Josh Berry does go to the 33 and Menards follows, then we get a Menards and RCR reunion. How about that? How about that? That's really all I got. I just wanted to point that out. If Menards does stick with Berry and we get a RCR and Menards reunion.
Obviously it's an interesting rumor. When you're RCR, you're not going to get like a top driver, honestly, because the top drivers obviously want to go to Penske, Hendrick, and Gibbs if there is an opening, and RCR is obviously a middling pack team. And obviously if he can find sponsorship, then obviously he can get, there are going to be some rides opening if he can find obviously some sponsorship, because like I mentioned with the Noah Gragson piece with Josh Berry, he's in a similar boat where he has struggles finding sponsorship. He really has. Again, there's many paths you take to get to NASCAR. Him being one where, he stuck it out with late models for a good number of years until Junior Motorsports and Dale Jr. obviously gave him a ride. in their cars, and he did a couple. He did a good job winning a couple of O'Reilly races, and went to up to Cup with the Wood brothers. And unfortunately, he kind of suffered from the same thing that Harrison Burton sort of suffered from, which is the Wood brothers are the fourth Penske car, and even though that might look good on paper, it really isn't, because they just tend to struggle to find speed. They really have, um, but again, he needs to find sponsorship. That's what I'm saying. Like if he wants to find a good ride in NASCAR, he needs that sponsorship or at least a decent ride. He needs that. Every driver needs that, or you need to bring something else, which is a lot of pedigree and resume. Because if you don't bring either of those, then you're gonna have a very hard time finding obviously a quality ride. And I wish Josh Berry all the best in finding another ride because I do like the guy. Honestly, we haven't talked to him at all, but obviously from what I've seen, he is a nice guy. I think he does deserve an opportunity somewhere. Will anyone give him that? I'm not sure, but hopefully, he can find his footing here before too long.
Yeah, I think him and RCR would be a good fit. I think if he were to go there, he fits the vibe, he fits the culture that is RCR, and I feel like he could get. I don't want to say more out of the car because he's not that kind of driver. At least we've seen that, but he just fits and checks all the boxes that RCR drivers do and are, and not that Austin Hill doesn't. Austin Hill is just he's I just does not deserve the ride currently. I really do believe that.
Austin Hill's the ass. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah. It's a touchy subject. That 33 car. Like it's just hard to say it, but you said it for me.
Yeah, here's how you want to put it. It's a situation that nobody wanted to be entered in, so I don't fault him for that, obviously. But I did not have much expectations for him, and sure enough, he's kind of meeting them honestly because he's out there running around like 24th or worse. But hey,
I
you know, that's RCR, unfortunately.
with all in all, with the situation he's in, he is doing worse than I expected. Actually,
Yeah, no, I
they were
agree.
already pretty low. They were already pretty low, and it's lower. He somehow did worse. He's somehow
Yeah,
doing worse.
I absolutely agree with you there. Now let's go on to the award ceremony. We have our top shelf and hangover of the week. Top shelf, guys. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You gotta go Joey Logano here. Coming out of nowhere, getting 2 wins here late in the season. It's got to be Joey Logano in an even year.
Damn even year, Joey Logano, always ruining the fun. Uh, Let me pull up the results real quick. Give me Austin Cindric just because his terrible performance at Iowa. If he really had a bad day here at Richmond too, more than likely he would be out. The cushion wouldn't be as big as it is. Hopefully he can string together another good performance at New Hampshire. But yeah, give me Austin Cindric because he needed a good day.
For me, just looking at it, I'm gonna go with the entire team. Honestly, Hendrick Motorsports has obviously struggled immensely. Chase Elliott again only has 2 wins, and they're the only 2 wins that Hendrick has so far this year. And their struggles over the last month and a half have really been documented well. Nobody has been running really well up to the standard that Hendrick has been set in the past, obviously. But this past weekend at Richmond, they all finished in the top 10. Yes, even the 48 car did. I couldn't believe it. But just Byron finished ninth again. Another quiet day for him, but he still finished ninth. And Chase Elliott came home fifth with his first top 10 since like his Texas win, I think. And then Kyle Larson again mentioned earlier how he needed a good run and got six, and then obviously won the Knoxville Nationals just like a couple hours later because he actually ended up making the race and the event. So Hendrick Motorsports, it was a good day at the office.
Good picks, guys. Now let's go over to our hangovers of the week. For me, I'm going to have to give it to. I don't want to go easy, but man, this is tough. I'm gonna go Eric Jones. He the last month he's just been on one hell of a hangover. He had a lot of speed out of that 43 Toyota for that 43 team, and just have had no luck going their way. Going to a New Hampshire track where don't think he's ran too good at in the past, so we'll see what happens there. But we are going to go to Daytona here next week, a track that he's done pretty well at in the past. He's a pretty good super speedway driver, so maybe he could shock the world there. But if he wants to even have a chance, he's going to have to have a good weekend here this weekend in order to even have a shot at Daytona. So, guys, your hangovers of the week.
Yeah, I'm going with a guy that's really been had a bad day at Richmond and also has just been sliding in points. Finished dead last. He missed his shift, destroyed his race car. Give me Carson Hocevar. Mentioned the horrible day he had at Richmond. Missed his shift. Blew up. Basically blew the transmission. Kind of like my transmission on my vehicle, except it was an automatic and I didn't do it. For him, it's a manual and he did do it. He was at one point fifth in the points, and now he has fallen all the way to 11th. I think he'll be fine. He'll definitely still make the chase, but he is sliding, and he is sliding fast.
I don't know what happened. I'm going with another team, by the way. I did team for top shelf and doing team for hangover, but I don't know what happened with this team. Honestly, the last like 2 months, like almost 3 months. Honestly, they have one car obviously in the chase, and we'll make the chase, and that's Chris Buescher, RFK Racing. Man, I don't know what you're doing. Ryan Priest obviously, needs a fighting chance to be able to make it. And, here in 17th is not going to cut it, especially when a guy like Austin Tendrick is up here in third and SVG is just hanging well solidly in 14th. Like you finishing 17th is not going to cut it. And, Brad Keselowski, as soon as his leg healed, he went back to being washed up Brad. He was better as banged up Brad. Now he's just washed. He's old. He's nothing's going right. He crashed it in qualifying before the race at Iowa, even though he didn't have to run that lap. He was third, honestly, when he ran that, but he crashed the car there, and he was slow. And Ryan Priest has been slow, and even Chris Buescher has infected that 17 team as well. Because as much as I praise him for being consistent, he's been basically non-existent. You haven't really seen him up in like that top 15 where you normally see Chris Buescher. He's been back here around Brad, around Priest from like 17th to 25th. They just have no speed whatsoever. And if you want a fighting chance, you need to bring better cars, and they're just not doing it. So honestly, RFK, the last 3 months, you've been on one heck of a hangover.
Good picks, guys, all around. I mean, for not for the hangovers, they're not having too good of a time. But moving on, let's go to Aiden's diecast of the week. Aiden, what do you got for us today?
Well, I'm going with the simple one. It's brand new. It's from this season. And with him being in the news, we're going to go with Connor Zillage's number 88 Mountain Dew ride. From this year. It's his first year in the Cup Series, so this is one of his first cars. I'm pretty sure he did run this in the Daytona 500, so this is technically the first start of his rookie season. Still no rookie stripes on the back. Kind of find that a little disappointing. I really like the details on the back wing. If you can see, it literally says, I know it's backwards, but on the spoiler it says gives you wings, as in Red Bull gives you wings. So that's pretty cool attention to detail. It even has the weathertech.com on it. And I know Lionel going with the metal chassis and the rubber tires have made the diecast more expensive. I will say this, though, the quality control and the overall quality of the car has improved and has been better. So while, yes, they did increase the price, I feel like they have done actually a pretty good job of it, having consistently good cars. So, yeah, that's my diecast of the week.
Pretty good diecast of the week there, Aiden. And I do have to agree. The quality of Lionel's diecast, the 164 miles, have definitely improved. A little bit more expensive, but definitely improved. Those older ones, man, the print on those, the paint on those were terrible at times. Next up, let's get into our picks and predictions. But first, we're going to talk about our picks from last week. In last place is Zachary, who had Austin Dillon finishing 19th. We all had a top 20, so that's good there. In third was Aiden. He had Daniel Suarez finishing 16th. I finished second with William Byron in ninth, and Bunny won with Denny Hamlin in fourth place. So, Zachary, with the first pick this week, who would you like?
Yeah, before I, obviously again, I'm doing it again. I'm going off in a tangent a bit before I pick my driver. I just got to say, a lot of the times this year, I've picked a driver like a week in advance, and they don't do well, particularly as well as they do the following week. So similar, what happened this time? Chase Briscoe, I picked him the week before, and he did solid. Obviously, he did fine. Finished behind Ryan Blaney, and who finished third. Briscoe finished fifth. But if I picked Briscoe this week, I would have won. So yeah, my picks have been solid, just haven't worked out, unfortunately. Again, it's just not my year. Picked Austin Dillon. The stolen setups, guys, no longer work. The stolen JGR setups didn't work. Okay, but as for New Hampshire, I got a couple of guys left, honestly. So yeah, similar to Austin Dillon, I wouldn't pick this guy basically anywhere besides a select couple of tracks. He's on a good roll, honestly, with momentum in terms of what expectations are for him and that team. Give me Josh Berry.
Good pick, Zachary. Good pick. Aiden, who you got?
Very good one. Obviously, we mentioned Penske as a whole being really good here. Really, this is one of Ford's better tracks. Joe Gibbs is also good here. So I'm going to pick a guy that is Barry's teammate, per se, quote unquote teammate. Unfortunately, I have used up Blaney and I have used up Logano, so give me Austin Cindric.
I am so glad you guys did not pick my driver because I'm going with a guy who is very, very, very good here. And I've saved him for this exact track, and I'm glad you guys have used him. Give me Christopher Bell. That leaves Bunny, and Bunny has also picked a pretty good driver. Now he's on the worst streak of his season this year, pretty much. The last 2 months have been hell on earth for this guy, but he started off hot as ever for anybody, and that is Tyler Reddick. He saved him all the way to the second to last race in the regular season. So yeah, his goal, or he told me his plan was to save Hamlin and Reddick to the end so that me, Aiden, and him will be tied going into Daytona and the rest of the way. We'll have to wait and see here. I like my pick. Aiden, you have a pretty good pick. I mean, Zachary, you also have a good pick. That was my backup pick. So I think we're all doing pretty good this week. Can't wait to see it. Maybe we all finish in the top 10. Last week was top 20. Let's see about that. Now let's go to our predictions for the race. I don't know which one of you guys is the one that actually kind of likes New Hampshire. Is it? Yeah, it's Aiden. I knew you kind of. I mean, I don't know about this track, man. Every year since I've been a kid and I started watching NASCAR, when it's New Hampshire, it's one of those races where I'm like, with my parents, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to grandma's this weekend." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. I don't care. It's New Hampshire on her. Oh, we're doing this weekend." I was like, "Okay, cool. It's New Hampshire. I won't miss anything crazy." And honestly, I still feel that kind of way. Now it has gotten slightly, and I mean slightly, marginally better. Not by much, like maybe that much, but it is just, it's a historic track. The Whelen Modified Series, modified open wheel cars, they do fantastic here. They put on a fantastic show. You see the highlights of it. You wish NASCAR Cup Series was that good at this track. And then you see our big old 3,600-pound cars out there, and it stinks up the place. It really does. I'm not excited about this one. My favorite team does not do too good at this track. So, you guys good?
You might have to unplug your mic. Finish your thought and unplug your mic. Nope, we're good now. We're good now.
We're good now? Okay. My mic's doing some weird noises. How about now?
All right. Okay.
How about now?
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, I unplugged the mic, so this is not just my camera mic, but yeah, I'm not really looking forward to this race. We'll see what we get. Hopefully, better than the past.
I don't know what y'all are on about, but New Hampshire is the fucking shit. Like, I love this track so much. Bro, the weird ass shit happens at New Hampshire. It's fucking cool. I don't know. Y'all are crazy, bro. Like, it's just entertaining. Like, remember 2018 Harvick's bump and run on Kyle Busch? Uh Eric Almirola somehow surviving the dark and winning as Christopher Bell is catching up to him in an upset. Uh the rain race, the first time rain came down and wrecked Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. Uh the other rain race where they had to put rain tires on the cars, and it was the first time we saw the cars on rain tires, and they were straight up just driving 5 wide into turn one, all from every single lane all the way to the fence. It Brian Vickers, even though I probably shouldn't mention his name anymore, Brian Vickers upset win here in 2013. Bro, New Hampshire just produces the coolest stuff every single year, and I'm tired of pretending like it doesn't. All right, New Hampshire is like so entertaining to me. It doesn't even have to be like an exciting race. Remember the fuel mileage race from Tony Stewart beating Clint Boyer in 2011, and the year before that, Clint Boyer beating Tony Stewart in 2010? Like, the fuel mileage is also cool. Like, it is the magic mile because it is so awesome of a race, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. All right, I love New Hampshire so much. I get excited when I see New Hampshire on the schedule, and to top it all off, Ryan Blaney's good at New Hampshire, and Tony Stewart, even late stages Tony Stewart, was still putting up good finishes at New Hampshire.
Yeah, that helps is when your drivers are obviously good here. Um, you know, again, I have a similar sentiment to Rizzo. So Aiden's kind of the only guy that really looks forward to this race. Honestly, I mean, the interesting aspects of it that you brought up, honestly, I will say, I did enjoy, the fuel mileage. I do enjoy the fuel mileage that New Hampshire can bring. But the problem is that we haven't really seen that in the next gen car. Um, so with that, it doesn't bring a whole lot of exciting racing, in my opinion, honestly. It really doesn't. Could it bring some surprise winners? It absolutely has, obviously, and it still can. But you know, when it comes down to it, is like it's not the worst track in NASCAR. Obviously, that's Texas for me, and that's Texas by a wide margin. Um, but what makes it worse, honestly, is that the way they had it in the schedule this year, which is they have Iowa, Richmond, and New Hampshire stacked back to back to back. And I want some variety. I want some. I like my variety. I like my schedules to be diverse. And unfortunately, they had these type of tracks all stacked together at the end of the regular season. When this is the crunch time, this is supposed to be the most interesting time. And honestly, this is some of the most boring racing you can have at the end of the regular season. Um, all in all, it's probably going to be fine, honestly, but I definitely don't look forward to it. Um, but we'll see, if Ryan Preece can maybe put together a good run again. RFK has been in a very big rut as a team in terms of speed wise. So maybe that'd be interesting. As SGG could struggle, and that could lend Preece a hand and maybe getting a fighting chance at Daytona. If he's within 30 points, honestly, he definitely has a good chance at it because anything could happen. But all in all, New Hampshire wise, this weekend, I will get to watch it because it's not on a Saturday; it's on a Sunday. But am I looking forward to it? Probably not. So yeah.
What was the line that you said, Aiden? That New Hampshire is the shit. I think it's just shit. Sounds like you like enjoying watching paint dry, man. This track just doesn't do it for me. Pocono has even gotten a little bit better. This track, I don't know. We'll see. I would like to be shocked, blown out of the water with this race. I just want a mediocre race, and I don't think we'll get that. But hey, that's NASCAR for you. Sometimes you get good races, sometimes you don't. Moving on though, let's get to Zachary's guess the driver. Zachary, you kind of gave us what you said. We got a doozy today in our group chat, and I really hope it's not some rando driver that we've never heard that raced for an odd amount of years, was a farmer most of his life, and then ended up owning a race team for 2 years, and I don't know, did something else, and somehow, some way, you found him on Reddit, and somehow we're supposed to know him. So please tell me it's not that kind of doozy.
Yeah, my driver, spoiler alert, is Mario. Obviously, I picked Mario. No, it's you got to, well, number one, again, you got to respect the history of the sport, man. You got to, and I can't just pick modern drivers. I feel like that's be a little bit too easy. But this one is someone you guys should know, honestly, because I know him, and
Oh, boy.
I've had known him for a good while now, honestly.
Yeah, but you say respect the history of the sport, but are we seriously respecting the nobody? Like, I respect the history that I ate an hour ago, but I still pissed it away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what?
Oh god,
It's like, who the fuck cares? You feel me?
I mean, most of the guys I pick are in the record book for wins. So,
a win.
anyways, yeah,
That's
two
well,
wins.
he
I mean,
won once.
a win's a win, man.
Well, he
Anyway,
won in 1957.
anyways, all right. Started off. This driver was born in South Bend, Indiana. That's right. He's an Indiana driver.
Ryan Newman.
No,
Okay.
I figured
He
Aiden
is
would
from
be.
South Bend. I do want to clarify that. He
Well,
actually
I was
is
gonna
from
say,
South
was
Bend.
he from South Bend? I don't.
Yeah.
I knew Aiden would be probably the first one to jump at it. Honestly, take a stab, but no. Growing up, obviously similar to most NASCAR drivers, on short tracks, his father and his older brother also raced as well. So he's in a bit of a racing family. He actually won his first stock car race. Oh yeah, his mom also drove as well. It's important to remember because he actually won his first stock car race driving his mother's race car. That's right. She lent him her car. He won in it. However, during this time as well, because he can get away with a few things, he was racing illegally because he wasn't old enough to drive in the series. So he had to temporarily quit driving because he wasn't old enough. They kicked him out. In his time, though, in the lower ranks, of stock cars, this is specifically around like late models of Legends cars. He had 24 feature wins. He had 2 track championships. He won the Rookie of the Year award as well. This is also like around like the late 90s as well, as I point out. During his time, though, he struggled with funding, so he couldn't afford crew chiefs or a fabricator. So he had one guy do it, honestly. That guy named Robert Hampke. He's a well-known chassis builder and crew chief. He did it all, honestly, and that's why he was able to keep up operations and still running. All right, this is where it gets good, okay? He signed a development deal with Chip Ganassi Racing starting in 2002. His first race in the O'Reilly Series, he came home in 7th place. Unfortunately, though, he never could rack up a win. And, he struggled with inconsistent results as such. Yet, he actually got promoted to Cup, driving for Chip Ganassi in the number 40 car, where he finished 16th in his first race.
David Stremme.
Aiden got it.
I knew it. As soon as you said David, I was like, it's David Stremme. Oh my
David
goodness.
Stremme. Holy shit, I can't believe I got that one. I didn't know he's from South Bend.
Yeah, he is.
I thought he was from Indiana. I didn't know it was South Bend.
Yep. Some of the other clues I had, honestly, were he actually, later on after Chip Ganassi deal fell through because he was piss poor, honestly. With the
Yeah, he
results,
sucked. Yeah.
he was at Penske with a number 12 car.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mhm.
He never recorded a single top 10, and he wasn't renewed after that either. So honestly, you can't say he didn't have decent equipment. He had decent equipment. He just didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
I
So
remember the one race I remember of David Stremme. It's a race I went to. It was the '09. I want to say it's 2009 or something like that. Race I went to at Michigan where I saw Mark Martin win his final race win. He had wrecked that race and he had the slowest spin across the grass I've ever seen. He slowly spun, hit the water barriers they had there. They weren't filled with sand; they were filled with water. It was pretty
Oh,
funny. And then someone had a really funny reaction in the crowd, I thought. But so that's how I remember David Tremi. But yeah,
mhm.
pretty good driver, Zachary. I was totally expecting some Joe Schmo that won in 1962 or something like that.
no,
So
don't worry, guys. That'll be next week.
that'll be next week.
I thought,
Yay. Yay.
yeah, I really thought I had it with Ryan Newman because, like I said, like look it up. Ryan Newman was actually from South Bend, so I thought
You
I
thought
was
you
like,
got it right off
oh,
the
this is
gate.
the one time he actually chose like a popular driver. So like,
Yeah, nah, I can't. I wasn't going to be that easy, but
mhm.
I
you meant
I was well aware. Oh,
yeah, you mentioned like Chip Ganassi, and I first thought like Jimmy Spencer, but then I was like, no, that's too late in his career.
honestly,
And then,
it's honestly
and
not the only like Chip Ganassi development driver I've done. I did Reed Sorensen, and Michael got that.
yeah, I
Mhm.
knew you did Reed Sorensen. I thought Jamie McMurray, but I knew Jamie McMurray's from Joplin, Missouri.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what driver was on my mind? I thought it was for some random reason. I had no idea where he's from, but I around the same timeline, like early 2000s, I thought it was Casey Atwood at first.
Ooh.
I hope I didn't steal one of his drivers there. Maybe I just gave you ammunition, but yeah,
Nah,
that's who I thought it was at first. Oh, is it Casey Atwood? And then you said Chip Ganassi. I was like, hell no, it's not Chase.
no, because he didn't win any. David Strimmon
Yeah,
didn't win any O'Reilly races, and at least he did. So
that's right, he did.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. You guys have anything else to add for this week's Moonshiners Racing?
honestly, Aiden here is obviously provides the most entertainment. Honestly, out of all of us, because he likes to go on his rants. Specifically, it's a weekly occurrence now that John Hunter Nemechek is going to do something to somebody, and he's going to flip out.
It is. We pointed that shit out like at Texas or something like way earlier in the year, and then he just kept doing it, and then he did something to Ryan Blaney. I feel like every single week since then, he's just gotten into trouble. And
Yeah,
again,
he
why
wrecked
is no one
Bubba for
mentioning
10th
this?
place. He wrecked him for
Yeah,
10th place at Watkins Glen for no fucking reason. Dude, just I don't know what is he doing. He's taking multiple steps back over last
yeah,
year.
and I feel like no one cares. Like I feel like we're the only three people in like the NASCAR fan base that notices this.
Because it's John Hunter. Yeah, it's like it's no shock to them. Maybe.
I guess.
Again, he's relatively quiet. Obviously, he doesn't have a very outgoing personality. And then you got to remember, like again, when he's not getting into somebody, obviously he's back there in like 27th, and you don't hear from him ever.
All I know is that anytime my drivers are by him, I freak out. I'm like, great, this guy's behind him. He's just gonna
So,
drive through him, and that makes
I'm
him
like
so,
that.
bold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's
I'm for real like that now. Yeah.
it's honestly, when he's laps down and he's still racing hard, and they're trying to pass him, and just like get out of the way.
get out of the damn way, man. You suck. Not that we could do any better, but dang, man. Anyway, that's going to do it for all of us here at Moonshiners Racing, presented by Depot Street Sports. If you like any other sport, we have some college football show going on at the exact same time as this show. Sounds like 6. And then we got our NFL podcast that I'm also on. We just wrapped up going over all of our uh, predictions for the shows, for the divisions, and we had our Super Bowl predictions. And you're gonna like mine. I had Rams against Broncos, but we all had Rams winning. So, but yeah, if you would like to listen to those shows, yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, who's gonna beat the Rams? That is a super team right there.
The Denver Broncos are going to beat the Rams. That's who.
Um, I don't know about that, but
I'm just
fucking Knicks.
I am just waiting for when the Aaron Donald news is finally going to drop that he's actually
Right?
coming back, man.
yeah, the moment that drops, I mean, everyone knows it's gonna drop. It's just a matter of when. But anyway, that's gonna do us from all of us here at Moonshine Sports Center by Depot Street Sports. I'm your host, Michael Rizzo, joined with Aiden Fortney and Zachary Kendall. We'll see you guys next week, talking all things New Hampshire, and get you ready for Daytona, the series, the regular season finale. Thank you guys, and have a good one.